you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you own me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Good morning. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you don't already, right there, at Peoples_Pundit. It is Monday, June 22nd. Honor and Expectations is the title of today's show. We have Trump back on the campaign trail. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Bolton and his book and his interview, and we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to remind Mr. Bolton what he said about the Trump-Zelensky phone call in August of 2019, which is much different than his account now to sell books. And, of course, we'll look at the latest economic data, which is good news. So, in fact, let's start there. All right. The Chicago Fed National Activity Index, which, you know what? I'm not going to bring the story on the screen. You guys know it. It's covered on People's Pundit Daily. So this came in much stronger than expected. It definitely indicates that there was a strong rebound to economic growth in May, and it was led by production and employment. Production being manufacturing, factory activity, et cetera, et cetera. All right. I'll show you the 1 year in a second, but let me just go through it. The Chicago Fed National Activity Index, also known as the CFNAI. The Chicago Fed, like us, likes to abbreviate acronyms, abbreviations, whatever you want to call them. I thought that was the military in me. Thinks I got to come up with an acronym for everything, or a short version, a shorthand, PPD, INT, BDP, you know. But anyway, it rose to 2.61 in May from negative 17.89 in April. Again, fueled by improvements in the production and employment-related indicators. The better-than-expected result indicates economic growth rebounded strongly in May. Forecasts range from a low of negative 10 to a high of negative 4. That's it. The consensus was negative 4, indicating economists expected continued traction for the month of May. But that did not happen. For those who don't know, the CFNAI is a weighted average of 85 indicators of economic growth and national economic activity derived from four broad categories: production and income, employment, unemployment and hours, personal consumption and housing, sales, orders, and inventories. And if you go on PPD, it is the top story right now because it matters. You will see all four are plotted out on the graph. You guys can check out the trends for all of them. All four broad categories and indicators used to construct the index made positive contributions in the month of May, and all four categories increased from April. The index's 3-month moving average, again, it's a 3-month, so they abbreviate it, the CFNAI-MA3, I think, moved up from negative 6.65 in May to negative 7 points from negative 7.5. It's going to creep up a little bit because it's an average. But what do we care about here? Let's look at the magical V. The magical V. That is a V. Okay? What are we looking for here? A V-shaped recovery. It's again earlier than even I expected, but it goes with the rest of the indexes we looked at last week. It is just the latest economic indicator to show a V. That's why they call it a V shape. All right. Boom. New residential sales construction. The other two lag: building permits first, then groundbreaking, housing starts second, then completions. Clearly a V, and completions, no doubt, will follow and be a V. Housing market index, a V. Advanced retail and food services, which is retail sales, a hell of a V. The Manufacturing Business Outlook Survey, AV. And then today, of course, the Chicago Fed National Activity Index. A V is a V is a V is a V. All right. So, I just look, let's talk about let's talk about the positive. If it was, I don't know, if Hillary Clinton had won and then there was like this COVID thing, I don't understand why people can't share in the happiness here. If Hillary Clinton had won, and then they shut down the economy over COVID-19, which I don't think would have happened, but let's just pretend, let's just like give it to them and pretend it wasn't used as an excuse to slice Trump's Achilles heel. I would still be happier than a pig in crap that the economy was coming back quicker. My criticism of Barack Obama over 8 years, for those of you who remember, was mostly economic. Everything stems from economics. Everything. Social unrest, civil unrest, social problems. Economics is all. So everybody should be happy today. But alas, they are not. What is today's news being dominated by? Right? John Bolton. That's what everybody wants to talk about. After talking 2 days about Trump's Tulsa rally, the clear media narrative being that it was a failure. Well, now we just want to talk about Bolton. As if everybody loves John Bolton. He was a rock star during impeachment too. It's kind of like a bit of a joke, isn't it? I mean, for those who don't remember, John Bolton was because I know a lot of you don't. John Bolton was one of the most hated political foreign policy figures during the Bush era for liberals. They hated this guy. They couldn't stand him. Sleet wanted him charged with war crimes. Okay? For lying about WMDs, which of course they still say, and I know people who still look, Ari Fleischer seems like a nice enough man, but he'll still tell you that was an accident. Not an accident, it was just bad intel. That's a load. They didn't have it. They lied, and that's it. But today, Bolton is trying to resurrect himself. And he couldn't even get confirmed in the U.S. Senate under Bush. He still would not have been able to here under Donald Trump. And before we get into it, because I'm not going to play any of the clips of him, I am not going to ingratiate this, or I'm not going to entertain this man. He is like the worst of the worst, folks. I mean, this is the worst of DC. It really is. President's number one. They have got to feel that their conversations with their advisors are in confidence and that they can be honest. I mean, it's very important with foreign policy. Very important. They have got to know that what they say is said in confidence, which is what executive privilege is all about. The president cannot conduct foreign policy, and he is the chief diplomat as well as the chief law enforcement officer in the country. A lot of people like to call that the attorney general. That is not true. The president runs the executive branch. This independent crap is an artifact of the era of Donald Trump, because everybody wants to check on Donald Trump who doesn't support him. That is a load of crap. The American people elect the president. He is in charge of the executive branch, all aspects of the executive branch, nobody else. Anyway, I'm not going to play these video clips because I pretty much feel like Megyn Kelly. I think she said it best. And then I'm going to tell a little story about John Bolton. This is what Megyn Kelly tweeted. This feels gross. Bolton. Period. Again. So I used to like and respect him. I feel uncomfortable watching this. I mean, well, you should. Everybody should have felt uncomfortable watching that. That was a horrific display of betrayal and dishonor. That to sell books. I mean, no matter what you think about the allegations that he's making, many of which are already have been refuted. No matter what you think about it, really, not everything is about Donald Trump. The very people who say Donald Trump is such a danger to the norms, the institutional norms in this country, the rule of law in this country, we've heard this now for 3 years, they themselves pose the greatest danger. It is them who is threatening the very order that they say Donald Trump threatens. That's from rule of law to foreign policy. This man hasn't had very many people around him that he could trust. And when this is the kind of person Donald Trump is, went to work for, people burn out. Donald Trump likes people throwing different opposing views at him. And if you fail to reach a certain standard or a certain level, then you're gone. That's the way Donald Trump burns people out. He uses them up and throws them out when he feels that they no longer are doing their job. And that's just tough crap. You wanted to work for him. He's the president. You serve at the pleasure of the president. You don't go and fabricate a bunch of things, which is, by the way, some of these things are just demonstrably false. Some of them are hearsay and he said, she said, or he said in many of these cases, but some of them are just like patently false. And we know. Now, the judge allowed his book to go forward, but if you read the ruling, it's really clear. Go forward and sell your books. The damage is already done. Knock yourself out. But don't be surprised when you got those silver bracelets clamped behind your back, because you willingly and knowingly broke the law. They used the National Security Council's reviewing process to hype the book up. They abused it to hype book sales. So don't be surprised, John, when you get locked up. Anyway, John Bolton, the liar and warmonger, was finished after the Bush administration. Finished. Donald Trump gets elected, and he's running around town trying to convince everybody. And this is what the little story I want to tell you. Convince everybody. He's got his friends running around town, going to alternative media, people like us, trying to convince everybody that he is no longer a neocon. He understands the Iraq War was a mistake and that he'd fit right in with Donald Trump because now he's like a reformed foreign policy realist. So structured realism, or what Trump calls principled realism, it's really structured realism if you study foreign policy in academia like I did. It is structured realist. He's a structured realist. We've never had one before, yet the school of thought dominates foreign policy. It's really incredible. But he's running around town telling everybody, I'm no neocon. I'm no neocon. Hire me, hire me, hire me. Tell the president, hire me. Write a good story about me. Did you talk to my friend? My buddy who says he's close to me? Did he sufficiently satisfy you enough that you could whisper back to the White House that John is that I'm not a neocon anymore? This is what he did. If he did it to us, he did it to others. And we're hearing from everywhere all of a sudden. The guy's he's a reformed war criminal who lies about weapons of mass destruction. He's a reformed war criminal. Now he's a textbook realist. John Mearsheimer all the way, baby. The debate's really just about, who's right, Mearsheimer or Waltz. But I'm definitely a realist. He was so full of crap. The guy's a warmonger. During the impeachment proceeding, he's hiding out in the United Arab Emirates. Or was it Qatar? Qatar, whatever. I think it was Qatar. He's hiding out there. What is John doing over there? While the world wants to speak to him about the conversation that Trump had with Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. So now, of course, he's got the goods, and it's not just Ukraine. Donald Trump did this with China. Do you see a pattern here? He did it with everybody. And the end goal was it had to be good for Donald Trump's election. Does everybody not understand that John Bolton is accusing Donald Trump of keeping his campaign promises? That is what he's doing. It all started really to go downhill in the spring of 2018 before Bolton even got there. Jim Mattis was still the defense Secretary of Defense, which, by the way, if you didn't see it on PPD, check it out. The DOD released a strategic space strategy, a 10-year plan for their goal in space. When I'm telling you Donald Trump is the most consequential president to space exploration, there's no doubt since JFK, at least, if not beyond JFK, because of Donald Trump, we're able to find planets like we've never been able to find planets before, to see whether or not which ones are blue, which ones are not. Because of Donald Trump, we're going to have a lunar landing pad one day, a lunar launch pad, to be able to hop off and go explore Mars or even colonize. And because of Donald Trump, we're going to have a space force to make sure that commercial and government space travel is safe. People mock that crap. I mean, so-called progressives, they're supposed to be the forward thinkers. They mock that crap. It's happening. One day it's happening. And one day we're all going to be racing. Elon Musk is going to be, competing with others, or his business or whatever, or somebody like him is going to be competing with others to race to this asteroid to mine this, mine that. That's happening. For a bunch of people who are worried about a climate that you can't control, you're awfully short-sighted. But anyway, so in 2018, Mattis is still there. And Donald Trump tells everybody in the Situation Room in the spring of 2018, it was April, he tells everybody, listen, you got to get out of Syria. I know what you guys are doing. You're not freaking fooling me. And you got to take all of the troops out of Syria. And what he meant by that was the CIA was running a covert operation to topple Assad. Publicly, the foreign policy class in this country, in the media, their friends, their warmongering, war drum beating friends at the New York Times and MSNBC and CNN are telling the public that we're there to defeat the remnants of ISIS. The latest intel report comes in and there's maybe 1,500 left. Trump has eradicated them, almost. Damn near. An Islamic extremist army eradicated. And he says, yeah, kill the rest, but you're getting the hell out of Syria because we're not there to nation build. We're not there to provoke civil war. We're not there to topple the Assad regime. I don't give a damn about Vladimir Putin's interest in Syria. We're done fighting wars in the Middle East, and we're done starting wars in the Middle East. They were appalled. Appalled Everybody was appalled. Everyone who advises the man, damn near, or everyone who held a top position in the national security apparatus. H.R. McMaster wanted war, who John Bolton later replaced. Jim Mattis wanted forever war. And by the way, the CIA did not listen to the president immediately. And still really does. I mean, they fight him every step of the way. And then they fear that an imminent announcement, a similar announcement in Afghanistan is imminent. The way he spoke about Syria and his goals that he laid out in that meeting in the Situation Room, everybody walks away afraid that Afghanistan is next. And that the president may not be willing to drop a bunch of bombs on Iran. And they thought they had this all figured out. Couple chemical gas attacks in Syria will push them into throwing some tomahawks at them. Couple Shia militia attacks in Iraq. We'll get him to attack Iran. But he didn't. Instead, he killed Qasem Soleimani later on, but he refused to go along. John Bolton later steps in for H.R. McMaster as the national security advisor, and he absolutely wants Donald Trump to start a war with Iran. Absolutely does. He wants him to arm everybody next to Russia. You know, I mean, John Bolton has never met a militia in the former Warsaw Pact that he hasn't wanted to arm. There is no former Soviet bloc country that John Bolton doesn't want to use to fight the Russians. Like we're still like Barack Obama, right? The 1980s called, they want their foreign policy back. The hell happened to that? Now we're defending John Bolton? Anyway, John Bolton goes in and says that this was really about Donald Trump's election. The same thing with the foreign aid, the military assistance, though he does say it was not initially tied. He's only doing that because he knows he's on record contradicting everything he's freaking saying in this book. He's on record. And Maggie Haberman at the New York Times, why didn't he say this under oath? Why didn't he testify? And he says he was sitting ready. He wasn't sitting ready to testify. He was in Qatar, doing God knows what with rich Muslim royals. He wasn't sitting by the phone waiting for a telephone call. You got to be kidding me. And the reason why he didn't go under oath then is because Republicans may have played this video.
A follow-up to my visit last year on Independence Day, where I was really honored to have a chance to participate in that. And now with the new government in Ukraine, to see what might be possible going forward on a whole variety of fronts.
Do you plan to meet President Zelensky, and what messages did you bring to him?
Well, I will be meeting President Zelensky. He and President Trump have already spoken twice. The President called to congratulate President Zelensky on his election and then on his success in the parliamentary election. They were very warm and cordial calls. We're hoping that they'll be able to meet in Warsaw and have a few minutes together because the success of Ukraine, maintaining its freedom, its system of representative government, a free market economy free of corruption, and dealing with the problems of the Donbass and the Crimea are high priorities here, obviously, but high priorities for the United States as well.
Warm and cordial. Warm and cordial. You got to be kidding me. His conversation was, he's referring to the now infamous phone call. If you don't watch MSNBC and you don't allow the New York Times, MSNBC, and CNN and others to edit text messages, or if you just go to the source and you don't allow them to take 500 words out of the transcript to make it sound like something it didn't, and you read the transcript yourself, you know a few things. One, Vladimir Zelensky brought up Rudy Giuliani. That's number one. and said it was an honor. He was looking forward to meeting him. Donald Trump did not bring that up. Number two, the javelins that they were discussing in that call anyway was not part of the military aid. That is a lie. Javelins were purchases. They were purchases. They were not foreign aid. That's number one. And the fact checks like twist inside out to try to make these two one and the same, and they're not. And they did not go from the javelins to, oh, by the way, do me a favor, investigate Joe Biden. That is not what happened. And you know that if you don't allow the media to spoon feed you your information. This is not a defend Trump show, by the way. I can see some of the comments. This is not you're right. He put him there. One of the comments, I should bring this up. That's right. Donald Trump put Bolton in that position. Donald Trump made a lot of bad personnel decisions. This is not a defend Trump show. If you're looking to troll defend Trump show, go to Bill Mitchell or something. That's not what we do over here. We tell the truth, and we don't allow the story. We don't allow Donald Trump to consume the story over here. That is not what we do over here at Inside the Numbers or on PPD for that matter. The FISA abuse story is not about Donald Trump. They want you to be consumed by your hatred for him, so it blocks out your reason and your ability to think about the enormity of that scandal. And if they can do it to somebody like him, they can do it to anybody. That was always what that story was about. And the next time you get an agent of change that you support, don't cry to Donald Trump supporters when the FBI tries blackmailing him into playing ball. Because they're not going to be there for you. Because you were too filled with hate and too blind to reason to be able to look past your own biases to see the enormity of that scandal. Which you're going to get soon anyway. You're going to be forced to reckon with that soon, regardless of whether you want to or not. That's coming. So just prepare yourself. Like the report that said there was no Russian collusion was always coming. Again, yet another story. This one is the same. Anytime a president comes in and is elected and intends to keep his promises, to not take your money and give it to countries that may or may not be worthy enough to receive it, do God knows what with it. By the way, there's another audio tape of Biden today talking to Petro Poroshenko about going after people who had evidence of corruption against them. YouTube banned that video. They will not. You got to go to Interfax if you want to watch that. Or CD Media, Creative Destruction Media. Todd Wood always gets those stories out there. Maybe I'll put it in the video thing. But there was a lot of money Donald Trump was threatening to hold up for a lot of friends. And if you think Adam Schiff or Joe Biden or anybody gives a damn about whether or not Donald Trump talked the way he talked with Vladimir Zelensky, if you think that was the heart of that story, then they got you right where they want you. I really don't know what to tell you. This is about the foreign policy establishment in this country. Just said from Bolton to the Ukraine story, that's what this is about. A guy who doesn't play ball, them trying to get him to play ball. And if he doesn't, remove him. And to hell with voter sovereignty. They don't care what kind of misinformation campaign they run against you. They have zero respect for you. The last thing I will say, and we can trash on Bolton a little bit more, but the last thing I will say about this is the big takeaway from this. I got Megyn Kelly's tweet and showed it to you because it's absolutely right. It is dirty. It's filthy. You should feel like you have to take a shower if you support this. This guy went from being a war criminal, supposed war criminal, Slate wanted prosecuted, to being their hero. Just like Robert Mueller, by the way. It's like, this is one of the worst characteristics of the Trump era. It doesn't matter what you have done wrong, how you have wronged the American people, how you have abused an office, how scummy you are, how dirty you are, how filthy you are, how low character you are. As long as you trash Donald Trump, get on board, as long, then all is forgiven. John Bolton, Bill Kristol, Robert Mueller, all is forgiven if you just hate on Donald Trump. Because they have successfully, the big media hate machine has successfully put so much hate in the hearts of so many people for this man, they are simply unable to look through or past that hate to see the actual story, the significance of the story. And that's a damn shame. That is a damn shame. And then with some others, the big question of 2020 is this. And we're going to get into Trump's rally and some of the things he said. The big question of 2020 for me, there were two. And I'm going over here on the break, but there were two. One, will Democrats declare their own voting independence like Republicans did in 2016? Or will they continue to allow the establishment and the media, the big media hate machine, their incestuous relationship with one political party, will they allow them to do that and pick their nominee for them? Or will they declare independence? And I got my answer there. Democrats are still not capable of picking their own nominee. The exit polls were clear. Voter analysis were clear. They did not want Joe Biden. They wanted Bernie Sanders. When you look at who do they agree with on these issues, their heart was with Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden is not the nominee because he was perceived to be a moderate, and most Democratic voters are moderate. That's a myth. That is a falsehood. Bernie Sanders was painted with the unelectability brush because the political class got it in their heads that he could not defeat Donald Trump. And they convinced Democratic voters in a very short time that he could not win and that Joe Biden was the only way to defeat that man that you hate so much. Forget about your own personal welfare. Forget about that. Forget about what you believe and what you don't. Put that aside. They pulled a Fox News on Democrats. And what I mean by that is, since the inception of Fox News, they have made it their business to ally with the Republican establishment and try to convince Republican voters who to vote for and who not to vote for, who is electable and who is not. It got them one winner. One winner, that's it. In over 20 years. George Bush. George W. Bush. Who basically derailed McCain. Who many viewed to be next in line. When little George got in there, it killed his chances. It was over. Then they told you John McCain's next in line. He's the maverick. People see him as an independent. He's the only one who can beat Hillary Clinton. In truth, Rudy Giuliani was a much stronger candidate in 2008. There were others who were much stronger candidates. Barack Obama surprisingly won the election. And it became an old versus new because Fox doesn't know the first thing about the American people. They claim to represent the middle of the country, the flyover country, but they don't know anything about them. We talked about this on Friday. Fox News wants to portray themselves as the hallmark channel of cable news networks. Well, I just know too many women who worked at Fox News to believe that line of crap. They are an establishment vehicle. That's what Fox News is. Then they gave you Mitt Romney in 2012. They gave Republicans Mitt Romney, and they got killed. Eventually, Republicans said, I've had it in 2016. All the polls showed that Donald Trump was the weakest candidate. The public polls, anyway. He was going to be the weakest candidate. And we've been over this how many times? Which Rust Belt state was Jeb Bush going to win? Which state in the blue wall was he going to win? And I digress. The same goes for Marco Rubio, but I'm way over on time here. The takeaway from the Bolton interview is that this, and the book, which I pray you don't waste your money unless the stores are still out of toilet paper, because that's all it's good for. The takeaway is that this man is accusing the president of trying to keep his promises, his campaign promises. That is what he's accusing Donald Trump of doing. And I frankly hope, for the sake of diplomacy in future administrations, I frankly hope they lock John Bolton up. I do. And I am not somebody who likes to see political people get prosecuted. I don't like it. This is a scary era of prosecuting your political enemies. But it's not about Donald Trump here. This is about the president's ability to conduct foreign policy. It's about yet another norm, yet another institution, yet another rule of law, yet another long-standing precedent that the so-called order is destroying. The same thing with releasing that transcript. The president should never have had to release that transcript. This will irreparably harm the president's ability to conduct foreign policy. And not just this president, all future presidents. Stop being so damn short-sighted on everything. Not everything's about Donald Trump. Not everything's about Donald Trump. You got to get past that crap. All right? Anyway, it is in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. I love that ticker. It is 10:38. Monday, June 22nd. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, and you guys can follow me if you don't already right there at Peoples_Pundit. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook, folks. Facebook users, don't forget to like the page. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let's hit that mark. Share it with people you think may like it or find it interesting. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. We got to start talking to everybody again. We have got to start talking to each other again and with each other again. We got to try this. We got to give it a shot. Even if it is like the Rasmussen poll says, and one side basically thinks we're just headed for a fight. Even if those people are right, I'll go down trying at least to keep dialogue open. It's got to be, it has to be. It has to be that way. This country's not meant to work any other way. It's not designed for this. It was never designed for this. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and hit that little notification bell to let you know before we're going to go live. All right. And then, of course, the ultimate way to support the show is to subscribe to PPD, which you can do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. Before we get into the president's rally in Tulsa, because I'm going to cut through that crap too and tell you what is and is not true, what is and what is not worth, in the media's like, I don't know why they find it's so necessary to lie about everything. Like, there's so much to criticize legitimately. You guys know that. I criticize Donald Trump all the time. I don't understand why they feel the need to lie and fabricate crap out of whole cloth. Aaron at Vox. Here's Donald Trump defending the Confederacy. He didn't say a damn word about the Confederacy. He was talking about this new movement here to tear down statues. By the way, he specifically mentioned Columbus and Washington, neither one of them being figures from the Confederacy. They had just ripped down Ulysses S. Grant statue. Again, Grant not being a general on the side of the Confederacy, yet he feels the need to make this crap up. By the way, he said over 2 years ago after Charlottesville, what's next? They'll start with the Confederacy. They'll move on to George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Maybe they feel the need to make crap up because they can't just admit, oh my God, he was right. But in this effort to tear down statues like Ulysses S. Grant and others, these people have really shown that the real problem they have is not with the Confederacy. Their problem is with America. They don't like America. They dislike it. And I will say this, actually, let's just get into the rally, because what I was going to talk about really dovetails into this anyway. Polling in Michigan right now, and there's just no doubt that Republicans don't want to talk. We know, if you're a show watcher, you know what this is called. It's called response bias. And there are other cognitive biases at work, like social desirability bias. I have no doubt. But I told you on Friday, we went to a little historic district, people taking down their signs, and I'm wondering, you know what? The area I'm polling specifically is a Democratic area, but I have polled it before. I know what typical response rates should look like. And this bullying, this like massive bullying, because that's what it is. This massive bullying effort has absolutely scared people who don't agree. So if you're not like woke, or you're not, on the train, if you don't agree with what the media is trying to push, then you feel uncomfortable participating and sharing your views. Whether it's participating in a poll, whether it's participating in your right to display support for candidates on your business front, on your storefront. Oops, knocking into stuff. I know these people are Trump fanatics, but they're afraid someone's going to smash through the front of their business. Polling in Michigan right now, I had it to add, and I'm going to have to. I haven't fired it off. I'm going to have to add a data collection mode on top of the two already. I'm going to have to add yet another one because Republicans, specifically Republican men, do not want to talk. So take that in mind when we're talking about this rally, because the president's trying to cheer people up on Saturday. So he has this rally in Tulsa, and he tries to cheer people up, okay? And he pumps up he's trying to articulate what the Republican Party is about. And there's a reason for this. What he's saying to people and his supporters and people who don't agree with the woke crew, what he's saying is it's okay to be one of us. Let's play this clip.
Republicans are the party of liberty, equality, and justice for all. We are the party of Abraham Lincoln, and we are the party of law and order.
All right. So what he's trying to say, of course, is it's all right to be one of us. It's all right to not agree with them. In fact, and he goes on, if you do, congratulations, you're sane. Because it's not radical or wrong to support the police. It's okay to love and be proud of your country and its history. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what he's saying. But there's no doubt that people are afraid to express themselves. There's just no doubt. Anyone who's trying to argue otherwise, either you're not a pollster and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, or you're a liar. And you do, and you're a liar. Because it's very real. Very, very real. What happened with the attendance, though, right? Let's get into this, because some of the efforts to defend Brad Parscale I find to be ridiculous. For those of you who know, I'm not really, look, I'm sure he's a very smart data guy, but he is not a political guy. And when I say this and I criticize him by going off talking about unicorns like carrying New Mexico, when he needs to figure out which one of the Rust Belt states he's going to be able to hold on to, lunacy kind of crap. But this is really what I'm talking about. not being a political guy. You never hype expectations. Politics is all about expectations. And the crowd in Tulsa was a huge crowd. The place was more than half full. The media is so full of crap. Anyone who's been to a Trump rally knows that. And so, first of all, that's number one. Number two, anyone who's been to a Trump rally knows that those pictures an hour before the president speaks mean absolutely nothing. The place fills up when the president's about to speak. So panning around an hour before, when you see people do that, oh, here's an empty seat, here's an empty seat. They're doing that on purpose. I am sure many of them have been to Trump rallies before. I see the same damn people there. They know full well what they're doing. But I'm a little bit surprised at some of you guys for believing what Brad was saying with those requested tickets and not suspecting off the jump maybe something's awry here. Because we did see they admitted it, a lot of Democrats, especially young, even teens, requested a ticket on TikTok. Right? Or they put it together to request. I mean, this is like they can't even report anything correctly. Obviously, they use TikTok to get people to do it. But you don't actually have to go on TikTok to request a ticket. This was actually relatively easy to avoid. And I got a lot of you who said, how could they cut down on this in the future? And my business, it's not my job to give Brad Parscale free advice. It's not my job to give any campaign advice. That's their job to win for their candidate. I am not on Team Trump or Team Biden. It's not my job. But I will say this for the sole purpose of answering your questions, because I got this same question a bunch of times. I will say this. It is not difficult to dedupe those who are requesting tickets against certain databases to figure out, to find who do you think may or may not be requesting these tickets. Some of these people weren't even really, maybe they'll be eligible to vote by the time the election comes, but I saw reports with people who weren't even of age to vote yet. You could have deduped these lists against the voter file database that I show you guys all the time, contributor records. So if you see, and that's one that I would really, if you're going to be strict with it, remember we went over this last week when we went over the partisan identification, how we infer partisans. If I have access to these tools, I cannot imagine Brad Parscale does not. And if you have an email, because somebody requested a ticket and they give you their name, they give you their email, I do not understand why you would not dedupe that against the federal and state donor files. And obviously, if you see these people have a history and current one of donating to groups that would not be consistent with Trump's message, you deprioritize them. Because not everybody who submits a request for a ticket to a Trump rally is going to get that ticket. So it would easily, what I'm saying is it's not hard to cut down on this. It absolutely is not hard. Secondly, there is no doubt by the look of that crowd, as somebody who has attended, I don't even know how many Trump rallies now. There was no doubt that that crowd was younger. The COVID fear and panic is definitely still real. Those events should be moved outdoors. Donald Trump is still going to draw a huge crowd like he did in Tulsa. And by the way, Tulsa, it was not a great area to hold a rally, a large rally. Even though it's red, it's not a great area to do so. If you were trying, Trump can draw a lot of people in Tampa. You remember that, Madam Producer? That was during a time where his poll numbers didn't even look that good. And he drew a huge crowd in Tampa. There are better, more ideal locations because there are a lot of people who had to get in the car and drive and go. This is not exactly a highly populated state. Move the venues outdoors and start giving people the information that they need, because the media, and I will give Brad this, there were definitely people blocking the entrance. That absolutely happened. I don't know how much it would have impacted it, though. I don't know. I just flatly don't know. But then there is validity in the COVID argument. There's just no doubt. I don't know how anybody could not agree with that. Go outside. Go to the store. There are young, healthy adults wearing freaking respirators because the media has these, or, whatever, respirator, not just N95 masks. Now, I live in a very liberal area, so I'm not really maybe surprised if somebody was to tell me that it's more extreme over here. But there is absolutely no doubt people are afraid to gather, and especially the older people, many of whom, attend Trump rallies, his older voters. If you've been to one, then you know. And this one definitely looked younger. I personally know older Trump supporters who would go to rallies. Family, friends, and have, by the way, and have. But they would not go right now because they are worried about what they're hearing in the media with coronavirus. This was still a huge crowd for COVID during this COVID pandemic. But Brad made what is essentially a rookie mistake. You never hype expectations. You always overperform. Underpromise, overperform. Underpromise, overperform. You could say the requests for the tickets are huge for the president's event. We're seeing a much higher than average. But he started to actually spit out numbers. 500,000, 700,000, nearly 1 million requests. The minute I saw that, oh my God. This is amateur hour. Sorry, I'm sure he's a very smart data guy, but you don't do that crap. This is politics. You don't do that. You never set expectations that high. That was a rookie mistake. So some people are, racing to defend him. I understand, but you have to understand he bombed. He screwed up. He screwed up bad. If I was the president, I would have chewed him out. I would have chewed him out. And I'm looking, you know what? I'll play it. I could always play it again. I want to play a clip from, it's a little bit longer than the clip we just played before. But Trump had some good lines. Madam Producer will tell you that I actually was critical of the speech when we were listening to it on Saturday. I thought he should have given a speech more akin to the West Point speech or the NASA speech, because a lot of people were watching. His online viewer numbers were to the moon. An elected president giving a normal speech to the nation would love numbers that high. So while that also is consistent, by the way, with the COVID argument. So people aren't going to go and watch in person, but they're damn sure going to turn it on. His numbers were huge. And it was a good speech, but he did go off and he said some things that allowed the media to make that the story. The comment about testing. Of course, you and I know that was a damn joke. I told my team to calm down. It's a double-edged sword. The more you test, the more positives you get. We were doing so good. I said, slow down. Of course, they were going to run with that and say, Trump said not to give out tests. I mean, you look at like Aaron Rupar, however you pronounce his last name, at Vox.com. I mean, he's flatly lying. Of course, they're going to take opportunities like that. And they hated the 10 minutes where he talked about what happened at West Point, the ramp. Well, of course they did. Because the point of the story was not Donald Trump defending himself that he could walk down a ramp. The point of the story was to tell you how dishonest the media is. That was the real point of that story, which they lied about. But they hated that. Of course they were going to hate that. Of course they were. But the point, obviously, was to show people, look at how dishonest these people are. But there is some of the speech, some lines in the address that I thought were actually the winning message. And I was a little bit stunned to see that the campaign did not pull those and really push the hell out of those. There were a few lines in there that were big. They were a big deal, and they should have chose to focus on them. So I'll play it again after the break, but let's play it leading up so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. I'll play it again after the break, just to recap, because I'm going to take this and I'm going to go on to another line of thought that dovetails off of this.
Joe Biden's record can be summed up as 4 decades of betrayal, calamity, and failure. He never did anything. He was a senator. He was a vice president. He was before that something. Guy, you know what's great? President Trump was tough on this, or he was tough. They complained. Never did anything about it. He's been there for 43 years or 47 years. He never did anything about it. Biden supported every globalist attack on the American worker. Let's make every country in the world rich but ourselves, including NAFTA, the disaster of NAFTA. He wanted to go, and TPP would have ruined our automobile industry. Korea, I renegotiated the deal. I took a horrible deal. That was a Hillary Clinton special. She said, we have to make this deal with South Korea. It's going to mean 250,000 jobs. And she was right. For South Korea, 250,000 jobs. And China's entry into the World Trade Organization was supported by Sleepy Joe Biden. That was one of the worst deals economically in the history of our country. When China joined the World Trade Organization, they were flatlined for decades. They became like a rocket ship. He voted for the war in Iraq. He voted for mass amnesty for illegal aliens. He supports sanctuary cities, and now Biden wants to end immigration enforcement and he wants to require you to provide free health care for millions and millions of illegal aliens, okay?
Right, so there you go, okay? In 2016, and yes, some genius pointed out to me on Twitter that 2020 is not 2016. Wait a minute. Oh my God, it's been 4 years? Thank you. How profound. What a profound statement. Genius. How the hell could I have lived without that information? How could I make predictions without that information? Holy crap. Thank you. Stupid. What a waste of oxygen. Waste of 5 seconds of my life looking at such a dumb tweet. Ridiculous. But it is still a very effective argument for Donald Trump that these opponents of his have been in office for decades and haven't done a damn thing. They talk, they talk, they talk, they talk. How Americans feel about politicians in general, right, left, in general, will never change. Doesn't matter if it's 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024, 2028, 2032. Americans think politicians are all talk, no action losers who couldn't get a job in the real world, so they decided to run for office. They constantly lie about what they're going to do. They talk a good game, but the minute they get in, they don't do a damn thing. That will never change. That has always been one of Donald Trump's most effective arguments. It was against Hillary Clinton, and it absolutely would be against Joe Biden. And he said, and it was a line, I cannot believe they didn't pull this clip out and splash it everywhere. I have done more for the black community in 4 years than Joe Biden did in 47. That was one of the best lines of the night. That, and you can't go to worship God in a church, but you can burn one down. That was another great one. Why? Because there are a lot of Black Americans, particularly the ones we're going to talk about in a bit, that if you ever wanted to persuade and try to woo, those would be the ones to woo. You're never going to win the Black Lives Matter crowd. That's not going to happen. You cannot argue with people who support an organization that was founded on a lie, who still believe Michael Brown put his hands up and said, don't shoot. You're not going to win them, folks. It's not going to happen. But you can win decent, law-abiding, hardworking Americans of all colors, colors and creed. And we'll talk about that more in a hot minute, okay? About that message and the message that he should use. And I'm shocked that he didn't focus. I'm just stunned that the camp, whether it was the War Room, which is where we got these clips from, hat tip, the War Room, Trump War Room. I'm stunned by it. Let's take a quick 2-minute break. Listen to Bad Habit from the Grammy-nominated Bowen Band. Give me some time to drink some water, and I'll be back in a minute. All right. It is 11:02, Monday, 11:02 AM Eastern Standard Time. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me right there on Twitter if you don't already. See you in 2 minutes.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for knives to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you own me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, and we're back. Madam Producer, get me some questions. Get me some questions. All right, folks, it is Monday, June 22nd. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. Good morning with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Peoples_Pundit. Check your little things on Scope. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe to it on YouTube, okay? Better stream on YouTube, folks, for you scopers out there. Better stream on YouTube. So before the break, I may just play this again because I do see some new people joined, okay? I'm going to bear with me if you heard it already. Let's play this clip again, and then let's talk about which lines of attack were effective, which ones were not. And then one issue that the Trump campaign absolutely should use for the black community specifically.
Joe Biden's record can be summed up as 4 decades of betrayal, calamity, and failure. He never did anything. He was a senator. He was a vice president. He was before that something. Guy, you know what's great? President Trump was tough on this, or he was tough. They complained. Never did anything about it. He's been there for 43 years or 47 years. He never did anything about it. Biden supported every globalist attack on the American worker. Let's make every country in the world rich but ourselves, including NAFTA, the disaster of NAFTA. He wanted to go, and TPP would have ruined our automobile industry. Korea, I renegotiated the deal. I took a horrible deal. That was a Hillary Clinton special. That was a Hillary Clinton special. She said, we have to make this deal with South Korea. It's going to mean 250,000 jobs. And she was right. For South Korea, 250,000 jobs. And China's entry into the World Trade Organization was supported by Sleepy Joe Biden. That was one of the worst deals economically in the history of our country. When China joined the World Trade Organization, they were flatlined for decades. They became like a rocket ship. He voted for the war in Iraq. He voted for mass amnesty for illegal aliens. He supports sanctuary cities, and now Biden wants to end immigration enforcement and he wants to require you to provide free health care for millions and millions of illegal aliens, okay?
Shut up, Donald. I didn't vote for NAFTA. You know that thing. Yeah, those are the look, Americans are never going to view, it doesn't matter if it's 2016 or 2020, it doesn't matter. Americans are never going to view politicians as effective people. That's why Congress's approval rating is always in the dookie. They're never going to. One of Donald Trump's best lines of attack is the very same one he used against Hillary Clinton. You've been there almost 5 decades. You haven't done squat. What you have done, and he said, which was smart, that he actually quoted the former defense secretary under the Obama-Biden administration, Bob Gates, when he said that Joe Biden was on the wrong side of every foreign policy issue for the last however many decades. That is absolutely true. And the reason why it would be an effective line of attack is because Trump is the incumbent. Not only because, like I said before, 47 years, when it comes to policing reform, he didn't do diddly when he had the White House with Barack Obama. Many of the bills that he supported led to mass incarcerations for African Americans. He didn't do anything about one specific issue that is very important to black voters, which is education. Healthcare and education are very important to black voters. The reason why Ron DeSantis won the number that he did, which was astonishing, was because of school choice. And yes, it is absolutely true. Trump should be pushing that stuff. Joe Biden not only didn't do any of that, he actively worked against those kinds of policies. Donald Trump signed the policing reform executive order. He's the one who did criminal justice reform. So talking about Biden like a typical politician, all talk, no action, that gets to the heart of the justifications that we're always talking about. Donald Trump's justifications in 2016, he clearly is running on many of them again. Joe Biden's opening and why he's doing so well right now is that Joe Biden's justification, he's getting around. Americans are very forward thinking. They like to progress. I don't mean that in the sense of the liberal word. I mean that in the sense of Obama's slogan in 2012 was perfect, and it was one word: forward. Because Americans don't like to move backward. Joe Biden is the past. Incumbent presidents, one of the major advantages they have is that is a built-in sentiment in the electorate. They don't like to go back. The reason why Biden is able to you get around that right now is because of so much of the turmoil economically from COVID, which he's not going to have that issue. Trump's numbers on the economy are already rebounding. That is already happening. Even people who don't like him are starting to again approve of him on the economy. He's going to have an edge on Joe Biden with the economy. I'm like fairly confident that's going to be the case. The recovery is going to be, it was not whether a question of whether it was going to be strong or not. It's much earlier than I anticipated. I'll admit. He's got about 2 months head start on where I thought he'd be. That's a big deal. You can convince a lot of people in 2 months. But Biden's been saying to people, I'm stability. Typically, it's the other way around. Incumbents are the stable one, and the challenger is a risk. But Donald Trump is a boat rocker. Americans don't like rocking the boat. That was the second question 2020 was always going to pose. Where me, that was one of the big questions I wanted answered in 2020. And I thought would be, honestly, the defining issue of this election. Were Americans really ready for change? Status quos, established orders, do not just give up power and go home. Were Americans really ready to demand change? Real change. Not fake change. Like Obama and Biden, hope and change. Real change. Real change is ugly. Real change is messy. Real change is unstable. Status quo powers fight like hell to keep that power. Do Americans really have the resolve that they claimed when they voted for Donald Trump in 2016? Did they have the stomach for this fight? That was one of the major questions. And right now, Joe Biden is promising a return to normalcy or normality. He's promising a return to normal. We will go back to the way it was before. It will not be constant turmoil. I'm an even hand. Well, that justification during somebody like a Trump presidency is effective. Obviously, we can see it. It's effective. But the way to injure that, the way for the Trump campaign to injure that, is by showing how ineffective Joe Biden was, not whether or not he got the sausage done. You have to give it to Joe that every time Obama needed something done, because he was not a good president. Obama was not a good president in the traditional sense. He hated dealing with Congress. He was not good at it. They did not like him. A lot of people in his own party didn't really like dealing with him and going down to the White House. He was really the first modern president to just cut off communication with the chambers of Congress. He did. Whether you like him or not, that's a reality. He was not good at his job. He would send Joe Biden down there because people did like Joe. They did. But what Trump needs to highlight is that it would have been basically better if Joe did nothing, because he was so bad at it. The decisions he made were so bad. WTO with China, NAFTA, criminal justice reform, the Iraq War, damn near everything on foreign policy. He was wrong about everything. He was also the only one in the Obama-Biden administration who did not favor pulling the trigger on the op in Pakistan to go get Osama bin Laden. Thank God Obama didn't listen to him. Why? He thought it was too risky. He's a coward when it comes to big, bold decisions like that. He didn't want to piss off Pakistan and other allies. He's too much of a boys' club kind of guy. He was more concerned about the order than he was about bringing the most wanted terrorist responsible for the death of thousands of Americans, innocent people who went to work one day. He was too busy worrying about pissing off his friends in the Middle East than he was about bringing him to justice. That's Donald Trump's line of attack. What good is going back to the order if that order screws you? If you want to go back to the way it was before we were rocking the boat, that means you're going back to them screwing you. That's it. And to Black Americans specifically, you're going back to them giving you crumbs off their table so you can survive. Under me, you can thrive. We want you to thrive. We want you to have the same choices that Joe Biden had for his children.
On Congress to finally enact school choice now. School choice is a big deal. Because access to education is the civil rights issue of our time, and I've heard that for the last, I would say, year, but it really is. It's the civil rights issue of our time.
That should be in every single one of Donald Trump's campaign speeches. Education, school choice is the civil rights issue of our time. Because number one, it's true. The evidence, I wish I should have pulled some. Dan Mitchell's done great work on People's Pundit Daily with school choice. You guys can go on to People's Pundit Daily. If you just type in school choice, you will see how many studies and papers we've covered. The evidence is overwhelming. All of the arguments against it never come to fruition, which is that you'll sap all of the resources out of the public schools. You'll sap all the smart kids out of the public schools. That actually does not happen. What happens is public schools feel the pressure to actually do their damn jobs. That's what happens. And they improve as well in many of these cases. Win-win, I think it is, right, Madam Producer? Win-win. And then even for the book, I don't want to pitch my book. It's a heavy policy, philosophy, heavy book. It is not lighthearted book about polling or events. But even for our virtuous republic, I spent a lot of time researching school choice to make a larger point about something else. The general thesis of the book is that our founders, that we may be getting to a point where the Constitution was not designed to govern people like us. And it's not because I'm a Bible thumper or anything. It's just that the founders had very specific belief systems. They believed in the Protestant ethic, that work was a duty. God wanted you to work. He wanted you to work to be prosperous, not for the sake of greed or mammonism, not for those reasons, but because he wanted you to not be a burden on your fellow men. He wanted you to be prosperous. Idle hands also do the devil's work. Remember that, guys? He wanted you to be prosperous, and he wanted you to be able to help your fellow man, those who really were in need. And they pursued a little something called virtue. It was a big deal. Don't give me the conspiracy theories about Masons, all right? But many of them were Masonic temple practitioners, which is all about the pursuit of virtue. The Constitution was not really designed for godless people who pursue their own interests and who have ever-changing, ever-evolving principles that nobody freaking knows from one generation to the next. Forget about one generation. You know, a couple years to 1 year to the next. Barack Obama twice ran against gay marriage as a opponent of gay marriage. Within a period of 4 years, anyone who didn't support it was a bigot. And it's never was my hill to die on. I have too many gay family members to care, but it was never my hill to die on. I have my own beliefs, but I'm not judgmental. That's just the way I feel that we should be. But now we're getting to a point, and the whole concept was the more virtue in society, the less dependence, thus the smaller government. The less virtue a society has, the more need for social services, thus the larger government. So as virtue wanes, government and its power grows. That was the thesis of the book. So I needed to look. School choice was relevant for a specific chapter. But getting back to the point is, it was overwhelming What is the question, Madam Producer? Oh, man. Getting yelled at here. Where are you? Irish. Send it to me. Give me a second. I do want to answer it. Okay, here's one I see. Put up Laura's so I can read it, even though she took somebody else's. Wants to know if you think the rally was a preseason game for Trump team. Here's the problem. I do. I think they viewed it that way, but here's the problem. It's game on already. They should have been, live and learn and move on. There's plenty of time to make it up, but live and learn. It was a preseason kind of thing, but now it's time to pull your pants up, keep your eyes sharp. You don't have room for mistakes like this. That kind of failure, I'll tell you right now, everyone on the Democratic side after Saturday, they had their narrative ready to go, and they were getting ready to paint it as a disaster, and a dangerous disaster, by the way, and that they can give Joe Biden a reason not to debate. When I tell you this, I am not kidding. There is a very, very serious effort to keep Joe Biden off a debate stage. Whether that's by duping you with COVID stats that are so disingenuous. Yesterday was the smallest death count for COVID since this damn thing started. It doesn't matter how many new positive cases we have. This was about hospitalizations and destroying the healthcare system too quickly. So the number of cases are relevant, but they're going to try to use it. So I do think that the campaign saw it as a pregame, but they shouldn't have. It's been game on for a while. The media and the Democrats want to run some kind of like third world quasi-election this year, where there's really not that much campaigning. The media is going to tell the American voter the story. They don't want you to make up your mind and look and listen to messages so you can determine, or what we call in the business, make a rational policy decision. Which candidate stands for policies that are better for my life? They don't want that crap. They want a quasi-election where everybody, whether you're eligible to vote or not, gets a ballot. And if you watch this show, you know there is a difference between being registered to vote in the United States of America and being eligible to vote. They want everybody, whether they're inactive, have a change of address flag, deceased. They already did it in Clark County. This is not some kind of like, wow, conspiracy theory or hypothetical. It's happening. The Republicans just had to sue in Minnesota again, because Democrats want to send everybody a ballot, whether they're eligible or not. If you've been on a roll, you may live in freaking Ohio right now. You're getting a ballot in Minnesota. They want to count them for weeks after Election Day. They want to remove the verification standards. They're trying to run this kind of quasi-election, this weird kind of like not really an American election, and keep Joe Biden off the stage. All right, here's another one. I'm just going to pop yours up, Laura, as I see him. Should Trump continue these rallies during the media virus panic wave or wait until Labor Day? That's a great question, Trevor. He should continue them. He should move them outdoors, and he should do better with the screening, but he should continue them. And the left is going to try to do what they did in Chicago in 2016 to prevent black people from hearing Trump's message, which was riot for a rally. If they didn't do their job so well in Tulsa, there could have been a big problem on Saturday night. If that was in another like left-wing city, it would have turned into violence, mass violence. But they're going to throw urine on people. They're going to throw unknown substances on people like they did on Saturday. They're going to try to scare people away. If Trump concedes the rally, he's conceding one of his biggest tools, and they've won. So until the death count goes through the roof, no, I wouldn't. First of all, this is unjustified panic. The coronavirus is unjustified panic. Always was. But he should move them outdoors. Okay, here we go. And Trump going to hire a political person for his campaign? Look, I'll tell you what. And that's from Rich. Yep, from Rich. Look, Rich, he should, man. I don't know. I'm not going to tell the president what to do. I'm not going to, pretend like, that I'm giving advice to Donald Trump in some backway manner. But I will say this. Bannon understood the Trump coalition. And if it's not Bannon, he needs a Bannon-like figure. He does. I know that Trump doesn't believe that, but he does. When the Access Hollywood tape came out, Rich, everybody at Trump Tower told Donald Trump, it's over. You're going to need to make a concession speech right now. It's finished. But Bannon understood. He was the only one who said, don't you dare. He asked Bannon for odds. Bannon said, you're going to win. Americans don't give a damn about this. You're going to drop in the polls for a little bit. And he did. Even in the PPD tracking poll, he went down after that. People did not want to admit, a large part of that too, is that they didn't want to admit they didn't care. They care more about their own issues and their own life than what Donald Trump said. It's a very sophisticated, rational policy choice in 2016. People said, you know what? I don't like that, but is that as bad? Is that really as bad as hollowing out a community or destroying whole industries? This is the way they made the decision. They were under really no delusions about what Donald Trump was as far as a man, and his reaction to it was a smart reaction, which he did himself. Hey, look, I never pretended to be somebody I'm not. I never told you I was goody two-shoes this. I just told you that I'll stop them from destroying your communities, and I'll do that. That was brilliant. But somebody like Bannon was the only one who understood that those forgotten men and women have been forgotten so long. They don't give a damn about this tape. They'll come back. All right, so let's see what other questions they want to know. Yeah, I mean, there's no real blue place in Oklahoma, but if there was a more left-leaning one, of course, it would be Tulsa, But I don't know that I'd call anywhere blue in Oklahoma. Not yet, anyway. Yeah, I want to talk about, this is a good one. Is Maine fertile ground for moving past being like blue to an actual swing state or even a red state? What would have to be done for it to happen? That's a great question, because we started on Connecticut and really the events of everything that has happened, and because we're back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday for now, we're getting so close, guys. We're almost close. And then I just need a little bit of time to move. Once we're done, we'll do that. Yeah, this is a great question, because I wanted to give it its own segment where we could go through the voter files and I could show you, because Maine could be a battleground state. It could. Want to show you the detailed electoral history. It is not impossible for a Republican to win statewide office there, to win a statewide race on the federal or state level. It has happened, but I'm going to show you why culturally and demographically, why it has resisted the shift among the white vote that we've seen in other areas of the country. It can move to being a battleground state. Absolutely can. And if you're a Trump supporter, you should be very angry at the Paul Ryans of the party, people in that area. They, after the election, said, you know what, I was wrong. Trump heard a voice nobody else heard. And then he persisted on resisting. Maybe they didn't like Donald Trump themselves, but they were too stupid, too immature, and too self-centered to see what was going on, which was Donald Trump's not going to be around forever. The Republican Party is a dying political party. Donald Trump gave them the only path forward to be a national force, a national political force. The Bush wing, look, even if Trump loses in November, they're never getting their party back. That wing of the party has no constituency. The only thing they can do is scare people away. They can't win them. They can scare them away. But Maine has a very long, deep-rooted, like French Canadian and Catholic history. It's very detailed, and I want to talk about it in great detail. But the short answer to that question is absolutely. Maine can absolutely be a battleground state. And Republicans spent 3.5 years, now almost 4 years, resisting the changes to the platform that made Donald Trump appeal to voters they could never win. Never. His appeal was attitudinal before the big media hate machine got a hold of it and pumped so much social desirability bias into the national psyche. There are even emails, petrified emails in WikiLeaks. Oh, Donald Trump's he's gonna kill our identity politics structure. We got to move on this guy. They understood, they saw it. His appeal was attitudinal, not ideological, which is something that is almost impossible in modern America because we're so polarized, we're so divided, and we're so ideological. And the Paul Ryan wing, I keep using him because he really did the Trump movement. He was one of the biggest players in hindering the Trump movement. He was. Went right back to tax cuts. And I'm not saying, look, I supported tax reform. I did. I supported the Tax Cuts and Job Act because the data, 50 years worth, which we've gone over on this show, is crystal clear. Cut the corporate tax rate to increase revenue to the Treasury and to increase wage growth. The sweet spot is somewhere between 15 and 25%. Joe Biden, by the way, he wants to re-raise the corporate tax rate back to 27, which would actually reduce revenue. The TCJA did not add to the deficit like the CBO said, like others said, opponents said. That is not true because they don't know how to statically score. They don't know how to dynamically score. They're only static. And they don't understand that if you were to plot it as a V or a U shape, I'm talking about revenues to Treasury based on the tax rate, which we've done, then you would see crystal clear. Revenues increase if you stay within that sweet spot. If you go below 15% on the corporate tax rate, then it starts to result in a shortfall. Or at least it does without other structural changes. It will in the current system, But, okay. Witchfinder wants to know who's next for the Republican Party in 2024. Well, that's a great question, Witchfinder. I can tell you who I know is going to try. All right. I have a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Republican donors who call me and ask my opinion. Like I'm talking about like big ticket, like Republican donors who call me and ask me my opinion on things. Right. So I always find out like these dirty little secrets that only like politicians will tell their donors, their big donors. And a while ago, back when it wasn't known yet, there were people who wanted Nikki Haley. Well, by people, I mean the less than 5% of the Republican Party that doesn't support Donald Trump, which is an outsized voice in the media. They have a huge voice on media, social media, the internet. They have a huge presence, but they don't actually show up in the freaking electorate. Donald Trump's killing it in the primary. He's killing it. But they wanted Nikki Haley to run against Donald Trump. And a couple friends that I have who are big ticket donors, she made the rounds. She went on like a donor tour. And she made the rounds and she told everybody she will not be opposing Donald Trump, but she will run in 2024. She absolutely already has plans to do it. Ron DeSantis could be one of those candidates that throws a wrench in those long-term plans. By the way, John Bolton trashes Nikki Haley too. Why? Because Nikki Haley, in his book, Why? Because he says it's because she didn't have the experience. But in truth, she was shrewd and she was smart. Nikki Haley herself is more of a war hawk, of course, than Donald Trump. But she never got on the wrong side of the president. She was actually what a public servant is supposed to be to a president. I don't agree. I'll offer my opinion, but he makes the ultimate decision. And the American people didn't elect me or my agenda. They elected his, so I will carry it out. Now, I know some of them who told me, look, she was just sitting on my couch. She acted that way for political reasons, not because she's loyal. Others said that they think very highly of her. They do think she's a woman of integrity and honor and that she understood her place. I think it's probably a little of both. In the world of politics, it's never just a simple, dry, almost never. The truth and the whole story is usually somewhere in the middle and a little of each. A little of each. All right, let's do a quick little break because it's 11:37. I'll go over and read some of these. Looks like I got quite a few of them. But to circle back and answer the question about Bannon, he should. I'm sure Brad is a very smart political data guy, but he just is not a political animal. He doesn't. Bannon has him. It doesn't even have to be Bannon, but it has to be somebody like him should be in his ear. And if there wasn't Bannon in his ear in 2016, now look, Donald Trump is his best advisor. I really do believe that. Unfortunately, I think he listens to the wrong advice sometimes, but he is incredible political instincts. Better than any other candidate I think I've ever seen. But if Bannon was not there in 2016, after the Access Hollywood tape came out, he may have thrown in the towel. He may have thrown in the damn towel. I'm not, just because he might have, not because he would have quit or he's a quitter, but they may have convinced him that you're wasting your money. And Bannon said, 100% you're going to win. Go after them hard. We got this debate coming up. Let's pull a stunt. It wasn't even totally his full idea, but there's a great interview with that, by the way, and I could tell you that he generally is telling the truth. His version of the story is the version that's generally true about what happened. Yeah, Trump has killer instinct. You should listen to it. Unfortunately, somebody should be checking. Let me put it this way. I wouldn't get rid of Brad because he's smart. I wouldn't do that. I think that would be stupid. But somebody should be like double checking. And I know he has John McLaughlin polling for him. Somebody should be checking. They should maybe look, this isn't a job audition over here. Call Patrick Kalehi or whatever his name is. There are other people who could offer, as far as the polling goes, who could double check John's work. And then on the political side, somebody like a Bannon who could be there kind of like as a reminder. These are your supporters. Here are the people that you convinced to vote for you after voting for Barack Obama. This is what they really care about. All right, let's get into this last little break. And then I'll answer some more questions. I had some clips but that I wanted to run, but generally, let's wrap up this segment. Trump should absolutely focus on Joe Biden being a politician with 47 years worth of bad track record. So yes, we could. He's right. We could go back to the way it used to be. We could go back to the norm, and we could go back to them screwing you, putting forward policy that does not work for you. All right. And there's one more thing I want to talk about when we come back about that speech, something he said. And speaking of Joe Biden, all right. Okay. It is just turned a little bit ago, about 20 seconds ago, 11:40 on Monday, June 22nd. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm the People's Pundit, Rich Barris, and you guys can follow me on Twitter right there on the bottom of the screen if you don't already, at Peoples_Pundit. Don't forget, if you're a Facebook user, to go ahead and like the page People's Pundit Daily on Facebook. All right. Mosey on over there. Give us a like. We'll love you for it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are so close. Let's get there. We're just like doing this steady drip to it. I want to hit that first marker. And then, the more we get, the bigger the audience will get. And eventually it'll just snowball, but let's get there. All right. So go ahead and like the page on Facebook, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and YouTubers, if you hit that notification bell, 85% of you do, then it will let you know before we go live. This way you're not caught off guard and you don't miss any of my wonderful analysis in the beginning of the show. All right. But of course, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to PPD online, which you could do by going to peoplespunditdaily.com and choosing one of the digital subscriptions that fit your needs, or take the short link ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. And you could choose whichever one suits you. There's the monthly, the annually, and then there's the credit one if you're just a chart watcher and you see an article or an indicator or something and you want to look through the historical data, but you don't want a monthly or annual commitment. You could just get the credit option. Like every article, unless it's something very in-depth, every article is a credit. So it's basically $1, and you can choose when you want to use them or not. That was requested to us by somebody. So, I figured it would be best to suit your needs. So we asked the paywall provider to go ahead and build us something like that. And they did. All right. So here we are. Less than 20 minutes left. All right. And I'm going to bring up one more thing, and then we'll look more at your questions. All right. So in his speech, and do I have this here? I do have this. In his speech, Donald Trump said that it should be illegal to burn the American flag. All right. And that people should do like a year in jail. And he's coming out with these arbitrary standards for punishment. But I want to look on Twitter, because immediately the blue checkmark people like flip out. Oh my God, the Supreme Court ruled that's illegal. It is true. The Supreme Court ruled that you have a constitutional right to desecrate the flag. But for years, many, many, many Americans disagreed. And that decision was an unpopular decision at the time, remained unpopular for many years. And Gallup started asking a question similar along the lines of it in the 1990s throughout until 2006, when Senate Joint Resolution 12 in 2006 was eventually taken up and voted on by both chambers. Because it was a constitutional amendment, it needed 2/3. And it was an amendment added to the Constitution that made it illegal what it did was allow the federal government and states, localities, to be able to enact laws that made it illegal. So it didn't impose a blanket national ban on flag burning or desecrations. It allowed the states to do what they wanted to do. And it was a Republican-pushed amendment. It was one of the very few instances where Republicans grabbed their, and actually did their damn job. But they didn't like a Supreme Court decision, so they decided they wanted an amendment. But they did it in a very 10th Amendment-friendly fashion, which is to say it wasn't a blanket national ban. If Florida wants to ban desecration of the flag, they can do so. If Arizona wants to, they can do so. If California wants to burn flags, they cannot, and they can continue to burn flags. If New York, D.C., or whatever, D.C.'s not, but you get my point. It failed in the Senate by one vote. One vote. Guess who voted no for this? That would be Joe Biden. No, I'm not kidding. All right, let's pull it up. And then also too, because I did see immediately after Verified Twitter flipping out over this. So I tweeted this. So Verified Twitter also hating on Donald Trump proposing a law to punish those who burn the American flag. A very popular amendment proposing to do just that failed by just one vote in the U.S. Senate in 2006. Senate Joint Resolution 12. By the way, Joe Biden voted against it. Here are the names, and I know they're small for you, but you can clearly see there were some Democrats, like remember Max Baucus in Montana? He was considered a very moderate Democrat. Bill Nelson, who was just defeated in 2018 by Rick Scott, he also voted in favor of it. This is where, once upon a time, Bill Nelson was seen as a moderate. He, like everybody else, lost their minds. Mary Landrieu, Democrat in Louisiana, she went down in 2014. Now Bill Cassidy has her seat. All right. Or, well, not hers. It didn't belong to her. Salazar in Colorado. There was another Nelson in Nebraska, Democrat, back when Democrats could win that state. Bob Menendez voted in favor of it. Why? Because he represented New Jersey. This was the mood after 9/11, 5 years after 9/11. They had tried to keep going with this. Dianne Feinstein voted in favor of it. But all Republicans voted yes, except Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. And he was with Bill Bennett in Utah and Lincoln Chafee. You guys remember Lincoln Chafee in Rhode Island? He's not a Democrat. He's not a Republican anymore. He never really was a Republican, Lincoln Chafee. He was like some space cadet, very liberal, though, very liberal Republican, one of the last of the Rockefeller Republicans. But Joe Biden, too, and so did Barack Obama, they voted no. And this amendment failed. Where was the American people? Where were the American people on this issue? Okay. To go to the next tweet, and I could actually, because I did find it on Gallup, but just because Gallup had been polling similar questions in 1995 to 2006. And when Senate Joint Resolution 12 failed by just one vote, polling from 1995 to 2006, so over 10 years, the average was 6 in 10 adults on average, 59%, supported this constitutional amendment. Only 38.5% opposed it. Unsurprisingly, neither political elites nor water-carrying media mouthpieces represented the nation's views. They created a need for Donald Trump. And this guy, basically, in a nutshell, this is one of those issues. Verified Twitter blows up after Donald Trump says it, but it's ironically one of these issues that, just led to this festering anger among the American people, that they send these people to Washington. They claim to represent them, but they're liars. They're liars. And for all of his downfalls or shortcomings, whatever you want to call them, for all of his negatives, at least Donald Trump does what he says he's going to do. They created a need for Donald Trump. If they would have done their damn jobs well and truly represented the people, there wouldn't have ever been a need for Donald Trump. There wouldn't have been a need for it. Madam Producer, all I see is a black screen. I don't see it. Can you just grab it and I'll look for it right now? I see all caps. All right, Jeff wants to know, is PA becoming more Republican? That's a good question. Interestingly, Jeff, PA is like ugly for Republicans in the voter file, but it's gotten less uglier. And I don't want to get ahead of myself here. I really hope this company makes up their mind and goes through with this. But I will say this, because I don't want to get ahead of myself. I am shocked about Donald Trump's position and strength in Pennsylvania compared to some of the other blue wall states that he took. So he is stronger right now in Pennsylvania than he is in Wisconsin, which I was really surprised with. In 2016, okay, he's like right there. If I don't want to give it away, but it's within the margin of error. It's very close. And Biden's lead in Pennsylvania is statistically insignificant. And if he suffers from a turnout disadvantage, Trump would carry the state by a little bit right now. Which I'm stunned with, because I would have expected Wisconsin, given, number one, the voter analysis looks so much better for Wisconsin for Republicans. It's still like R+4. I can run another one tomorrow if you guys want. We'll talk about it on Wednesday. But the base turnout, the base advantage in Wisconsin in the voter file is R+4, which is stunning to me. But the deal is, Biden hasn't really made, in Pennsylvania, Biden hasn't made real big inroads with those working class voters that everybody said he was going to win because he's from Biden town, in the eastern part of the state. And then, of course, you have a county like Erie County where Donald Trump flipped. He is still leading in those counties. Joe Biden's strength is in the suburbs outside of Allegheny and outside of Philadelphia, even some in Bucks, even though Donald Trump's still doing very well in Bucks. If Donald Trump loses that state, it'll be because Joe Biden won with those voters, not because, or at least as of now, not because he's making inroads with the white working class. He's just not. It's stunning. Yeah, if you look like registration and the analysis we do, just to piggyback off of what people say about registration in Pennsylvania, it's done, Republicans have done a hell of a job, but the voter analysis that we run, that isn't solely based on voter registration. That's based on vote history. So even though the voter file itself will show a larger percentage of the electorate being independent, but in truth, the independent electorate in Pennsylvania is actually rather small comparatively. So when we run those voter analysis, it gets better on the surface for Democrats, because a lot of those people that are just listed there as independents, or they're not really independents because we know their vote history, their primary vote history. So they'll get pushed into the Democratic base advantage, because and not all of them, it's not pound for pound on it, but if they have primary vote histories and then we find contributions to liberal causes, whatever it may be, it's more complicated, of course, than that. But if you didn't watch the show on voter analysis that we did on the National Voter File last week, go back and check it out, and it'll give you a much better understanding of what I'm talking about. But there were a lot of Democrats in 2016, more than the exit polls suggested, a little bit more. There were a lot more that voted for Donald Trump than the exit polls suggested. Now, and a lot meaning in total votes. The percentage wasn't really all that different, but we actually still see that. So Trump, his crossover in Pennsylvania is erasing some of that, some of that just like party for party ugliness. In Wisconsin, there are more educated swing voters. So Trump is struggling a little bit with them right now. So Wisconsin is close, but it's still a Biden edge. And I'm shocked because in 2016, Wisconsin, and not only because of the voter file, but because of the state's voting history, Wisconsin voted more Republican than I think anybody expected, more so slightly than PA if you look at just percentages. And I actually thought I was wrong. I remember telling Larry Schweikert 2 weeks before the election, Madam Producer may have to remind me on this, but I think our Wisconsin was like Clinton +6. But there were just so many undecided voters. Both of them were low on the spectrum. And when they decided in that last 2 weeks, it just started to close really quickly. Close. And I'm telling Larry Schweikert, who's wanting to know every 3-4 days what the rolling average is, and I'm giving it to him. And then come the last final week, I'm like, I'm wrong. I thought I was wrong. I'm wrong. He's like, oh, look, he's gonna take Wisconsin too, Larry says, after I hand him the last one. And I'm like, no. He's not. I think I'm wrong. I think he's not. He's going to lose Wisconsin. Hillary Clinton's going to carry it. I didn't believe my own numbers. And then that was the first one to go that night. So I realized I was right. And Larry was very trustworthy of it, but he was he thought Donald Trump would carry it from the jump. Even when I had him down by 6, Larry's like, "Oh, those voters are going to decide. This is wrong. This is wrong." Push him away. Like all the work I did, okay, Larry, thanks for telling me it's wrong. It's wrong. Okay, whatever. Thanks. But anyway, let me answer one more question. And just to take away from that, I'm shocked how strong Trump is in Pennsylvania compared to some of the other ones, but it's because of education levels. All right. How big is the SDNY shakeup? That's from Irish Girl. It's big. It's big. Look, he's got some problems. He's got to shake up some of these people, whether he appointed them or not, which is ridiculous when it comes to that. There were people, Berman, and others, Trump put in there that stepped aside, recused themselves, or just stepped aside and let the wolves in. And in the SDNY, they did that. They allowed Mueller to flip a bunch of crap to them, and they did nothing to stop it. Even though by that time, you have to remember, guys, by August of 2017, it was clear it was a witch hunt. There was no Russia collusion. They needed to expand the scope of the investigation because they couldn't find anything on Donald Trump. And at this point, the guy's got 130-something days till election. Sadly, in the modern American political system we're living in, if Donald Trump loses, there has to be some shakeup and some accountability because of what happened. Because if Donald Trump loses, these people are going to abuse their power badly. We could see them go after him, his family, with a vengeance. It's freaking sad. It sounds like a Stalin type of transition of power and then his rule. But that's the way it is, I think Larry's always a little bit more than optimistic. I love Larry, Larry's my buddy, but he's optimistic. He's always been optimistic. Rush too was predicting a landslide, but I think they're trying to get the sentiment on how things may be in a couple, but we'll see. People don't vote for vice president, but could a bad identity politics driven, this is good, identity politics driven pick by Biden still hurt him? Kamala Harris's star is on the rise right now, folks. And that's the last question because it's about a minute out. Kamala Harris's star is on the rise. And amazingly, or maybe I'll get one more question. I'll get Angie's, or I guess, unless I missed it already. Did I miss Angie's, Laura? If I did, redo it, and I'll extend it to make sure I didn't miss anybody. But Kamala Harris was the most unlike candidate that ran for president on the Democratic side. Her unfavorables were horrible. She would have lost Florida by I'm convinced. She would have probably, Florida people don't lose in big numbers, but she was that bad and disliked down here. It was really bad. VPs, we've been over that before. This time, the reason why a VP might matter more than usual, even though we did a show on VPs, and I can't do that in less than a minute, but Klobuchar stepped out not because she wanted to have a woman of color or a person of color on Biden's ticket. She's full of crap. She could have prosecuted Derek Chauvin, and she didn't, the police officer, when he had other complaints. So it would have killed Biden's turnout to have somebody like her in the urban communities, in the urban black centers. It could have hurt Joe Biden's turnout there to put somebody like a Klobuchar. Harris has a lot of dirt on her. There's a lot of bad things about Kamala Harris that have not been reported or have been mildly reported in the surface scratched a bit. And her record on crime. If you guys remember, Tulsi Gabbard may not have gotten far in that primary herself, but she destroyed Kamala Harris. It took her all of 30 seconds to destroy Kamala Harris's candidacy because her record is a record of corruption, prosecutions for political expedience, and overzealous prosecutions of minority communities. And that's why she failed. So I think if I'm a Trump supporter, I would put my, jammies on and do the Kamala Harris kind of rain dance, because she would be one of the worst picks. All right. But let's see. I don't know if I got, look, if I missed that one, Laura, remind me and I'll answer it, in the next one. Did I miss Angie's question? Because I know we're up on time here and I got a boogie, but I may have missed Angie's question. All right. But look, yeah, it's already, Angie, I'll get back to you if I did miss you. Okay. All right. Listen, folks, it is noon already. We're over a minute. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barrison. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you don't already, right there at Peoples_Pundit. Don't forget to like the page on Facebook for Facebook users out there. Don't forget to subscribe to the page on YouTube. Let's get there, folks. Let's get there. And hit the notification bell. It'll let you know when we're about to go on. Also, the best way, of course, to support the show is to subscribe to PPD. You could do that by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. The trend in subscription since we started the show is beautiful. It's a beautiful upswing. We love you for it. Thanks for watching, folks. I will see you on Wednesday, but again, that's why you should subscribe or like the page, because it'll notify you if in the event we can sneak a show in between this limited schedule, because I'm dying to. I'm going to do it. I'm warning you. Fair warning. It's going to happen. So subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell, like us on Facebook. This way you don't miss it. All right. Thanks for watching, folks. All the best. I'll talk to you soon.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love just for a little fun? I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker.